hear me now? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So the question is, who knows the difference between a routine and a habit? Anybody? Just take a guess.
Does the
Habit
same.
is something that you do
A
instinctually.
routine is when you do it religiously.
And what's a habit?
A routine has intention.
Okay, routine has intention. Routine takes effort. What's a habit?
Habit is something that you do instinctually.
So a habit is something that you don't really have to think about, and a routine is something that takes conscious effort. And and I'm gonna mute everybody. I apologize for. So if you could unmute yourself to talk, and then maybe mute yourself when you're done, so I don't have so much background noise. So a routine takes effort, right? You need to intentionally go and do it. A habit is something that you've done so many times that it's just automatic, right? Is anybody in the habit of getting up at a particular time in the morning? Raise your hand if that happens, right? It's not a routine. You don't have to set the alarm clock. It's a habit, and your body becomes adjusted to it, and it happens automatically. There was a time, everybody that has a regular wake up time, that used to be a effort for you to do that. You probably had to set an alarm. Now you can wake up and you open your eyes. It's 1 minute before you get up the same time every day. And that's the automatic component of something that is routine becoming a habit. When it becomes a habit, it becomes more consistent. Routines take daily conscious effort. They're a series of deliberate choices and actions, activations that can transform your life for the better and create empowering habits. If we were able to get into the habit, and I think a habit is, I think it's when you do it for 30 days consistently, it starts to become a habit with muscle memory where you don't have to think about it as much. We all have choices, and if we make the choice a little bit less mindful, and there are also bad habits, right? Bad habits are hard to break. Good habits are hard to establish. I'm going to challenge everybody to build in some habits and some habits that are going to be productive into your business and your life. Maybe it's, get up early, go to the gym for half an hour, something that you can sustain that gets you in the right frame of mind, and do a process, have a system for being productive and serving your clients. Some habits that are very productive are, even if it's take 5 or 10 minutes at the end of a day or the beginning of the following day to set your priorities, right? Because you can set priorities out for 30 days, but during that 30 days, things are going to change. And, part of the power of having rituals, habits, routines is, making them significant in when you take those actions and do those things. Like if you're in the lending business, like I'm looking at Bruce there, but you have a habit or a routine of periodically checking in on all the loans to make sure they're going through the system correctly. In the real estate business, we have to have habits of, connecting with our sphere of influence, managing transactions along the way, solving problems. And I think what we as an industry tend to do is we tend to show up, and not always at the same time, not always consistently. And many of us look for a problem to solve. Have you ever seen that in your office where people come in, they check their email, they look at their text, they find a problem, they spend a couple hours solving that problem, they feel good, they grab a cup of coffee, they go to lunch, they tell 4 colleagues about the problem they solved, and they put back the most important things towards the end of the day, which may never come. Does that I'm gonna look to like a Ron or a Colleen. Does that sound like something you've seen before?
Absolutely.
It's a hard habit to break.
Right. So when you get into the habit of doing the most important things first, okay, I've seen, you know, some agents in our company and some agents I've come across through networking that have a non-negotiable time frame at which they do certain activities, and oftentimes it's prospecting or outreach to their past clients. Now, there's a gentleman who's fairly young, and this is not a self-promoting call here, but named Super Mike Minervini, okay? And, you know, people who worked with Mike, some of them are in our organization, some of them, you know, I keep in contact with. They, to this day, even if they haven't worked with him for 10 or 15 years, talk about the fact that from 9 till 11:30 every day, he was prospecting. Do not bother him. He never missed that time. If he had stuff to do, he did it before 9 o'clock or after 11:30. And that commitment to that habit, or that creation of a habit, you know, allowed him to retire before he turned 40. Okay, same business we're in, right? No benefit. I don't believe he even had any kids, so it wasn't like he was networked in the schools. He just had that habit of connecting with people during that 2.5 hour window. And I'm sure he did more prospecting, but that was the non-negotiable time that he had. And think about this. There are so many people that he impacted that I know who think back at that and absorb parts of those habits and the non-commit or the non-negotiability of that time to change their lives. And many of those people that were on that team to this day are more successful for having known Mike and observing his habits. And you know what? The world didn't end. It wasn't rude. He led a team. He had the same problems that we all have, but the people respected the fact that he wasn't available in those times. Does anybody know of anybody who's similar to that? Go ahead, Heather.
Yep.
Mario Venancio.
And
After his open house, he went back to the office. He didn't go home. He went back to the office and contacted everybody who was at his open house. He has a team, and he's obviously well known.
And for those of us who are not from the Monmouth County area, what kind of a producer is Mario?
Multi-millions, I don't know. Look, any day he's listing 2-3 houses, 1.2, 2.3.
I think he's over $200 million a year in production, which rivals many offices with one individual. So, you know, this isn't, you know, and just for the record, you know, Heather and I didn't stage this. This is not made up. This is real results that happen. You know, when you have a habit and you do things, it changes lives, and the first life it changes is yours, because you're able to be, you know, more effective by serving others, and it makes you feel good, and then that makes you more productive. All right. You know, I'm looking at somebody on this call, and I want to do a shout out, and this is a little bit off topic, but Michael Eisner, can you tell everybody what your license plate says?
Sure. Well, I have two license plates. One says THX thanks BNI, and that is a shout out to BNI, an acknowledgement and gratitude for the change it made in my career, because I came into real estate at 50 and all the other 50-year-olds had 30 years of experience on me, and I needed something to level the playing field, and BNI absolutely did that. Yeah,
And
the other one says RMX Pro. I'll let you figure that one out.
Remax Pro, got you. So, and Michael, how much business have you generated from your that networking, that one segment?
I would say in total probably 800,000, but from one client, including the deal we're about to sign this week, probably close to $500,000.
So $800,000 in commission income over what period of time?
16 years.
16 years. So
Yeah,
that's
total cost just over $2,000 a year. So it's probably cost me just over $30,000 to be involved. That's in hard dollars, not including the time, but the time doesn't bother me because I've made lifelong friends from it. So it's probably a 25 to 1 return on my investment, dollar for dollar.
And how often do they meet?
Once a week. That's why it works.
Okay, sounds like a habit. You do that every week. Just
You
saying.
bet. I know where I've been for the last 800 and something Thursdays.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing that, Michael. I just saw you in the
bet.
corner of my eye, and I just wanted to bring that out because you put it on your license plate. That's impactful. So,
Rob, there's a couple of agents who are asking, what is BNI?
and BNI is.
BNI stands for. Go ahead, Rob.
And you're better equipped to say it.
BNI stands for Business Network International. There's, I believe, close to 280,000 members worldwide in probably 80 or 100 countries. And what they do is they allow one person per profession into the chapter. Chapters range anywhere in size from 25 to 75 members. So if you came in as the residential realtor, you lock out that position. No other residential realtors can come in. And then you have a sales force of 25 to 75 people hunting for business for you. And that's a sales force that costs you nothing.
Thank you. And there's another group called LETIP, LETIP, which is a similar concept. Generally, they have chapters like per town or per market area. And I would say that, just like anything else, there are good realtors, great realtors, and there are not so great realtors. There are probably good and not so great chapters. So you just keep that in mind. Everything's not the same. Would you agree, Michael?
100%.
So it's only as good as the people that are there. So again, that's another habit that he's in every week. He shows up because he made almost $1 million from one source of business, and it's very inexpensive. It's less than $40,000 to make $800,000. That's a good investment. And I think you might do you get breakfast for that money as well?
Well, at my country club, it's not a great breakfast, but the answer is yes.
You still get one. All right.
Bagel bricks. Yes.
So going back to like the power of routines and habits is, if you do it, it really has a major impact. And I'm going to go back, and I might not quote this correctly. As a matter of fact, I'm sure I'm not quoting it correctly, but successful people and the not so successful people all have moments and days and times that they don't feel like doing what they know they should be doing. Okay. But the successful people do it anyway. Okay. The difference between mediocre and unsuccessful and successful people is we all have moments in time when we don't want to do things. That the people who are successful are just committed to doing it regardless of how they feel or what's going around them. And that's the secret sauce that gives them that consistency. Time blocking is masterful. Here's just a few things that I just wanted to talk about, and I put it on this little I put it on the link that I put there. The 7 elements of an effective daily routine. Establish times for getting up and going to bed, because you know what, if you are erratic, you're not going to be consistent upon what you do. And some of the major impacts I've had on careers have been as simple as, tell me about your routine and tell me about what changed, because I've seen people who've reached, tremendous success in a year or two, and then they get complacent and I don't see them in the office. And I'm like, so, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, tell me about your routine. What time do you get up at? Oh, I usually I'm on the computer late. I get up at 11. I'm like, I remember when you used to be in the office by 8. and hungry to prospect, right? And asking questions and trying to grow. When that changes, that has a dramatic impact, not only on your performance, but on your mindset. Okay. And then the second thing is, and there are a lot of us in this industry that, work excessive amounts of hours. Okay. And I see you, I know who you are. I have a great respect for that. But I think if we were to work a more manageable and deliberate amount of time, we could be both more effective and have a better quality of life. And then that's like a cycle, right? If you're have a better mindset, do you think you're going to be more effective and can do things in a shorter period of time? It's equivalent to the experience that many of us have before we go on a vacation or we take a trip we're looking forward to. And you don't want to be interrupted by all the business things that are going to come up while you're away, especially if you can attack them proactively. So if we were able to be a little bit more effective, we were to sharpen the saw, right? Take a few minutes. Let's intentionally create time blocks. Let's get stuff done. Let's not work, 14, 16, 18 hours a day. Let's work a manageable amount of time. Let's work smart. And then I think we can be more consistent, do it more productive. We're not going to wake up with the weight of the world on our shoulders. And, I know at least I've had it where I get up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to work because I have this overwhelming amount of stuff to do. And it's hard to get motivated, especially at the beginning of the day. Be practical and factor in non-business activities, things that are, important in your life, like family routines. Like if it's important to you to eat dinner together as a family, or to have times where maybe you like to, go out 3 nights a week to have a nice dinner, put that in your schedule, make sure you plan around it.
That's the key word there, Rob. Sorry to interrupt, but that's the key word is having a schedule, having something to follow each day. I mean, I tell my agents that all the time. I said, I don't know how you can function without having a schedule and having a routine of what you need to do each and every day, every hour of the day.
But Ron, you do for those of you who don't know, Ron does some coaching and agent development for us down in Southeast Florida. Do you see people who don't have routines, and does it drive you crazy?
Yes, it does.
And those are the people that they start out like a ball of fire, but their consistency wanes over time, and it's a very expensive learning experience, in my opinion, Ron. Another, they get lost.
They get lost.
So
when they start out, and they're doing things as planned and scheduled, like you say, the routine becomes a habit. But when you break the habit, they get lost and scattered. They're not as focused. And when you're not as focused, you're not going to be as successful as you need to be. I always say the morning list is important.
And it's important to note that habits can be both disempowering and empowering. And without intent, you get pulled to the disempowering habits that alter your mindset. That if you don't have a productive day, it's very, very difficult to feel motivated and excited about what's happening tomorrow, right?
Accomplished, yes.
So
Yeah, you feel guilty at the end of the day.
Yeah,
At the end
if you
of the day, you
schedule
don't
yourself.
accomplish. Sorry for the time. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. If you schedule yourself and you make a list of things that you have to do, and sometimes things do happen that you have to reprioritize. However, as you accomplish each thing on your list, it's sort of like euphoria. It makes you happy, and you feel you've accomplished something, and you've been successful at something, even if it's solving a problem. But these are I always say, you need to swallow the ugly frog first.
Yep.
At the beginning of the day, get that out of the way.
I mentioned this on a call a couple months ago, Rob. A good way that I heard it phrased recently that I never heard in my career was get things on your calendar that you don't have to do. because most of us put the things on our calendar that we have to do. And it's the things that we don't have to do, like, spending some time with the family, like prospecting. We could come to work and be on defense all day. You don't have to, you have to understand that distinction of just to Colleen's point about swallowing the frog. You have to put things on your calendar you don't want to do naturally. And that's how you create that good habit. I thought it was a good way to phrase it. I heard that recently.
Yeah, you live and die by your schedule.
So,
If you don't accomplish everything you're supposed to do in the day, you feel guilty at the end of the day. At least I did. And that's why I stay on a schedule. I have everything's in my on my calendar that I have to do each and every day, even on the weekends.
so if you, I see many of us on this call are either team leaders or team members, and I'm calling out all the team leaders to be role models for your team. And I'm not looking for anybody to put in massively excessive amount of hours, but I'm telling you that your team watches what you do, and if you don't practice what you preach, it's nearly impossible for your team to grow and mature the way that you want them to, if that makes any sense. So I don't know if Jay Latangio is on the call, but if he is, Jay will tell you that I always talk about income producing activities, or IPAs. Okay, and it's with intent that I do that, and I think it's the IRB. Who knows what the IRB is? The IRB is the income reducing box, or the television. Right? When you get in the habit of, sitting on the couch and watching too much television, it's the income reducing box. Okay. If you get in the habit of learning and filling your brain, or recharging, that's really empowering. This gentleman, Super Mike, for those of you who know him, apparently spent 2.5 hours every day, and he was the example for his team. And he made, either a chairman's or platinum club on his own income, which is $500 to $1 million, while he was here at Remax before he decided to retire before the age of 40. And I will tell you that, by all accounts, he's changed a lot of lives of the people that were on his team, because they saw how he was able to do that. And there's no magic to it. It's just consistency. Number 6 is leave margins in your schedule. Okay, don't be so rigid where somebody made a comment where things that pop up kind of throw you off target. So if you have margins in your schedule, you can accommodate the unexpected and even make up some of the time that's lost from the unexpected activities, and still complete the day saying, I feel good about what I accomplished today. But I would strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you do your outreach and your prospecting first thing in the morning, because once you have the realization that that's the most important thing, okay, you have to schedule it and do it. And, there's marginally talented people with below average personalities and phone skills that I've seen make extraordinary income by just having that discipline of time blocking. And then if you take that discipline of time blocking with good skills and the right mindset, it's really going to change your life. And no offense to Michael Eisner, but it's even more impactful than a BNI. And the BNI is a component of that whole process. Robert, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say that, that's what I try to tell agents is to do I'm a big proponent of time blocking. And as you said, if you do your calls first thing in the morning, then if the rest of your day blows up and, you don't get accomplishment, some of the other things that you may have had on your schedule for that day, at least, you can sit down and say, at least I got my calls done. And that's going to be the basis of my business building going forward. So I think that that's very empowering, that you can always look back and say, I accomplished something today. I got my calls done.
Yeah, I agree. That's when you're the freshest is in the morning. You're fresh, you're ready to go. There are like Rob says, there's a lot of things that come in the way of your prospecting in the morning on your schedule. If you have a closing or something in the morning or 9 or 10 o'clock, what I tell my agents is okay, if you have a closing coming up or something, a listing appointment that you need to go on, a lot of agents will work around their schedule, but find the 2 or 3 hours that you're supposed to prospect and make it up somewhere in the course of the day. So if you have a closing or an appointment that you can't change, have those 2 hours of prospecting that you're supposed to do. Put it in your schedule for the afternoon or somewhere where you can go ahead and accomplish that. I mean, you have to prospect at least 5 or 6 days a week.
Oh, I mean, Ron, if you want to unmute yourself, I'm gonna even, piggyback on that and just say, if you're not prospecting, you're really not generating any income. Okay. And you might challenge me on that, but I'm going to hold firm to this because if you've done mailings, right, and you get calls or, you've networked and you're taking inbound activity or you're paying for Zillow, you're getting calls. You're not generating income by fielding those calls. Okay. You're just harvesting the fruits of the seeds that you planted in prospecting. So the only real value creation, the real income generation is outreach to generate new business. And that has to be a habit. Okay. Getting to work and checking emails and solving problems and, working on contracts and preparing for a listing conversation, helping a client make an offer. Those are all practical parts of what we need to do. But that's the way of converting the opportunity that we created elsewhere, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw something else out there. We had, for those of you who were at our happy hour on the porch, it was great seeing you all last night in Rockaway. And I had a lot of people come to me, Robert, and say, "Why are you wearing your badge? Everybody knows you." And I just wanted to make an example. And for some of you, I even showed when I was at my trip down to Florida, I went to have a lunch with one of the agents, and I wore my hat and my name badge. And she actually wore a Remax shirt and a pin. And the manager of the restaurant came over to our table and said, "Why do you people keep teasing me? You can't buy a house." And he wound up giving me all the information about his house, his email. He's like, "Can you help me?" And, that wasn't even an effort. I mean, the fish jumped in the boat there, folks, just because I was prepared. Okay. I mean, literally, I don't think I saw Terry Shellen on the call, but, the person approached us and said, "Can you help me? I've been looking, nobody's been able to solve my problem." Now, there's no guarantee that that's going to be a transaction, but trust me, we got his whole story, how much money he has down, how much he's paying for rent, what his pain point is, where he wants to buy, and it didn't take very much effort. Okay. But how many of you are going places and being secret agents?
Rob,
Okay.
I used to tell agents, new ones, one of the best places to prospect is to wear your badge and stand in the middle of Macy's. You will have people coming up to you right and left because they see the badge and there's no one there to help them. Make sure you have your cards with you.
I
And it
mean,
starts a conversation.
it's it's such an easy piece of having conversations that can be tremendously valuable, and if you love what you do, you really have to have those conversations and see how many people you can help, instead of how many dollars you can, how many checks you can cash. When you're looking at helping people versus cashing checks, it changes your mindset. So And the last piece that I wanted to talk about was something that I think a trap that we all fall into, and is called squeeze low value tasks. Okay, so that means maybe limit the amount of time you spent on low return items, intentionally time block them, and don't let them grow. Don't let them be monsters that grow and steal your time. And some of the things that are probably best done with intent and practice is, if you are, working in an environment with other people, there's a polite and intentional way to let a conversation not go on for 20 minutes and steal your time and derail you from your activities, right? You say, hey, you know what, Ron, I actually need to get on with somebody in like 5 minutes, but I really appreciate it. I hope my advice was helpful. Or if you're engaging somebody else, like you can have strategies for concluding conversations. And this is an analogy I can give you to this. Did you ever do like a text to somebody and say, hey, happy birthday? Oh, thanks for the birthday wish. How are you? I'm great. Oh, that's good. And you don't know how to end it. Anybody ever been there? Or is it just me? Right? It's like that text can never end. And you have to, intentionally say, I'm going to do one more response and then that's it, right? Otherwise it goes on forever. But that's where we talk about squeezing out these activities that are comfortable to do. They're not productive. And, most, if not all of us, fall victim to those tasks. The most productive people are those who manage to carve out consistent time to work on their most important goals. If you do not work on maximizing your daily routine so you can carve out that time, at least a certain amount of time per week, you will be less productive, less successful, and you'll have less time to do the things that really matter to you. Okay. And I think the last part is the most important thing, because the question is, do we live to work or work to live? Right. And it sounds like just a spin of words, but it's very significant, right? You have to have a motivation and a reason for, doing what you do. And the last part of my my monologue here, does somebody have a question?
No, Rob, I was just going to make a comment that to your last point, when I was really actively listing and selling, I would go to high school football games because that was my passion, and I knew a lot of the parents of kids who were on the team and everything, and I'd show up there, in my suit and tie and my badge, and people would say to me, "Why are you dressed like that at a high school football game?" And it was like, well, because I had some showings that I did just before the game, but I wanted to get to the game, and then I've got showings afterwards. So whether that was actually true or not, it didn't make a difference. The important point was that people saw me and saw that I made time to come to their son's football game. And it was really very helpful in building a business and a clientele in the town where I wanted to do business.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I tell agents too the same thing. They be handing out your business cards, get the recognition. Those are the things that are important, because people don't know who you are. You're going to be a secret agent for all your life. You got to be out there and hand out cards, talk to people, start conversations with people. So important. That's great. But that's great, Rob.
Be proud of what you do. Don't be embarrassed to be a realtor, a professional.
Nope.
What we do is really important. We help people make the most important decisions of their lives, usually. And we should respect ourselves enough to want to be able to share our knowledge with those people that we meet.
So before I get into the math piece of our business, which we all, I'm not going to say well, which most of us, don't like the math, the accountability piece of it. I want to read to you something that really touched me from a person that was a first-time participant in our mastermind. Hey, I just finished the mastermind today, and I wanted to say thank you. It was a pleasure listening and learning with you. You have an even demeanor and calm and confident, engaging presence. This is embarrassing for me to say, but you are the first real estate person I met who is truly likable. I mean, I never really liked real estate agents because I found that they look at what they can get out of it and make money and weren't helpful at the least. at least the ones I ran into. I've always wanted to work in a field helping and of service to others, and started to doubt real estate. I am grateful you came along, and I know I have the right mindset that is instilled in me of helping. My challenge is still learning on how to share that with the clients. So that was a few excerpts from, an email from somebody who, got into it and kind of turned to realize that, you know, money isn't the money isn't the, um, rarely is money the motivation for doing things. The motivation really has to be at, providing a higher level service. Because if money is the only thing, when a transaction falls apart, you become devastated. But if your goal is to help people, and then at the end of the month, you look at, what did I accomplish, and what did that equate to in dollars and cents? If you're able to add value to people, the money will come. You know, those of you on camera, like, go like this if you half believe it. Don't put your hand up if you don't believe it, but if you believe it, put up your hand. Like, if helping people will provide an income, um, you don't need to worry about how the money gets to you. If you just help enough people, the money will funnel in and will find you. If you're focusing on the dollar, it becomes elusive. And I think that's one of the things that, one of the first time, participants to our group, determined. It's like, the perception was all real estate agents are out to make a quick buck off of a client, when those are the exception to the rule. The real rule is the people who are sustainable in this business, really care about helping people first. And, they know that if they help a lot of people, the money will come. So with that, little mindset shift, I want to talk to you about the last piece, which is the math of real estate, right? And I'm going to say most of us don't know our business math, right? And if you look at, some of the largest companies in the world, they're able to predict, what their earnings will be in a very narrow range, because they know what their numbers are, right? And they have systems of accountability built in. Um, what I would encourage everybody to do is to measure how you're doing, right? If you want it to be a world-class sprinter or a marathon runner, or if you want it to be, a champion weightlifter, you put more plates on that, you see if you can lift it. You have a stopwatch, you check your time for running a mile or 40 yards or 10, whatever it is. In real estate, if we're not measuring what's going on, we don't know if we're growing, right? And if we measure it and we know what we can expect over time, we can determine, what value that we have for the time that we spend. Okay. And for prospecting, for most of us, that's a $600+ an hour activity. And I would say that if I went to you, Ron, and I said, Ron, for $600 an hour, would you show up for 2 hours and, you know, make phone calls, and you punch in, you punch out? Would you be late for that ever? You would not be late. And you think that's a pretty good deal, right?
Yeah.
Now, Ron, that if people are doing prospecting, if it was 2 or 3 hours a day, that, once they hit that competent status where, they're comfortable in what they do, I've not seen anybody make less than $600 for an hour for prospecting. But the problem is, because it's not, hey, I worked 3 hours today, here's my $1,800. You have to do it over time. Okay, you can make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year by prospecting 2, 3 hours a day if you really commit to it. You measure it and you commit to improving. Okay, even if you're a great prospector, you always have to grow. Like, you have to find your way, whether you're virtual coaching, whether you go on YouTube to listen to other people's perspectives, and then you develop your own voice, your own strategy, your own confidence on how you can, help people, right? I mean, if you were able to, have anybody ever see that movie Men in Black with that little flashy thing, right? Can you
Yeah.
imagine if you had one of those flashy things when you saw a buyer or a seller and you flashed them with that and you said, after you flash that red light in your eye, they're going to listen to you completely because they know and they trust you, and they're not going to be, pushing back on everything that you say because they don't have that trust. Would it not be easier to get more listings? Would you not abuse the customers that trusted you? Would buyers get more successful outcomes on their offers if they trusted you implicitly? Come on, somebody pipe up who's not, I don't want the lenders here, but somebody pipe up if you challenge that or you agree with it.
Agree. I agree with it.
You agree. TJ, and I see you don't have your camera on, but hopefully you can talk. What's your opinion on that?
Sorry, Rob. I was at the front desk answering the phone. No admin here. I didn't hear what you said.
So I'll come back to you a different time. Audrey, I see you're there, and you were there last night, looking like Audrey Porter. Everybody's not listening or
Yeah,
shy
I'm
today.
here. I'm here.
So if everybody believed you like that the listing that you just took, right? Would they not have a better outcome?
Yes, they would.
And how much did you sell that listing for? Was that 2 weeks ago or last week?
Last week.
So you sold the listing last week where the owner wanted to price it, what, 50,000 more than they were at?
Yes.
And you got them to price, you got them to price, hold on. Audrey, you have to unmute yourself in a second. So you got them to price it right, and tell the audience, how much did you get over the asking price on that property in the market that's supposedly slowed down?
91,000.
91,000 more than the asking price because the client listened to you. And I really feel that that house was on the market 3 months ago. Was it 3 months ago when they discovered the oil tank, or longer?
Yeah, about 4.
3 or 4 months ago. And 4 months ago, we were getting 30, 40 offers on many of our listings. Now we're getting 4 to 6. So I'm going to say that the market was stronger back 4 months ago than it is now. Not that it's bad now, but Audrey counseled her client on how to make the right decision and got an offer $91,000 more on a $599 listing. Was it $599 or $599, right? Audrey?
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. I get background. I'm going to mute everybody. There's a
Yeah,
background.
you have to mute everybody.
So Audrey got a client that wanted to overprice their house, or not price it aggressively when it had expired at that same price, and got that client 91,000 more. And I contend that it's because that she built trust and a rapport with the client. Okay. Not because, she's that much smarter than anybody else, because there are a lot of smart people that can't communicate effectively. And another thing that, quite impressed me about Audrey was we had a transaction where we did something creative, and there was an escrow for a tax appeal, and the attorneys were deriving it to litigation because they couldn't resolve it. And Audrey herself picked up the phone, solved the problem, and, really, took the burden away from 2 attorneys and satisfied 2 clients by being able to communicate effectively and build trust. So imagine having that flashy thing from Men in Black where you flash somebody in the eyes and now they trust you, and we don't violate that trust. We just give them, honest, good advice, and they actually listen and take it because they know that our intentions are to help them, and that's what motivates us, right? So that's part of the process that, I just want everybody to understand is, if we measure the value that we add, we do it consistently, our numbers are going to improve. We're going to help more people. Going back to that Chet Holmes quote, if you're good and passionate about what you do, you have a moral obligation to share it with as many people as possible. Okay. Forget about building up a big bank account, because a big bank account is just a bunch of numbers. But, having a world where you help a tremendous amount of people because you're doing the right thing, and then in return make a lot of money, is where I believe the sustainable value of our business is. Okay. And looking at the numbers and understanding your business is critical to being able to serve more people. For example, things that we should know is, what's the, if we're going to farm a particular area, we need to know what the turnover is, what's the total available market, what market share do we want to get out of this, and what are we going to do? And then we take the cost and the time of what we're investing there, and we figure out what's the return that we expect to get. And if we don't get that in Farm A, we do it in Farm B. If we're calling, expires versus FSBOs, you have to measure. Do you do better with FSBOs, Ron, or expires? Right? And if you do it enough time, you're going to have your numbers, and you'll be able to communicate with the people that you're most effective with. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. If you find a niche, it's good. It's all good.
So, I know statistically most of us won't do it. Most of us will hear it, just like when you go to a great motivational speaker or, a tremendous event, you have all these great ideas, then you come back into your routine, your daily life, and you kind of forget it. And I'm going to raise my hand saying I'm guilty of that. But I think over time, it builds a framework for you to then dig deep and figure out how you're going to get it done before it's too late. So anybody have any comments or questions?
I just want to add something,
Just
Rob.
like,
If anybody would like,
just,
I have,
sorry, go ahead, Bruce.
I'm sorry, just that I have literature on a 3-page piece on how to tools you can use to track the numbers. And I also have daily and weekly tracking sheets that could help any agent that wants to at least take a look at it. Just reach out just reach out to me at bruceoliver.com and I'll get it over to you if you'd like it.
Does anybody, go ahead, Colleen.
Thank you, Bruce.
What I wanted to say is about the market. National Association of Realtors for the month of May said this was the change of days on the market. Prior, it had been 8 days on the market. Now it's 9. So yeah, we're still in a really good market, guys.
Yeah.
It's property is still moving.
Well,
we just got new home sales figures today, which they came out at 10 a.m. this morning. They represent about 10% of the market. Previously 629,000. It was consensus was going to be down a little bit at 588. It was actually at 696. So there's still, this could be a delay because these are contracts maybe from 60 days ago, which Rob always talks about often. It's a lag, but just worth mentioning.
Well, I have a news flash for everybody. If you're committed to the business, it doesn't matter what the market does. Okay. If you're in the business, you're not getting up in the morning saying, oh, geez, home sales are down. Maybe I ought to look for a new job. I hope those people are not on this call, because that's not the way I process information. I process that information to give to our constituents, our clients, so that they can make the best possible decisions for their real estate needs. And, if you're one of the agents that tries to get every client the absolute best possible deal on the buy side, you're probably not a very productive agent recently. And, you just need to shift your mindset to a practical application of getting the job done. It would be akin to, following Warren Buffett saying, hey, I'm so smart, I time the bottom of the market. I always buy it at the bottom. I don't think anybody even professes to be able to do that. And if you're trying to, in this market, you're trying to get your buyers the best possible deal, without getting the best possible acceptable deal, then you're doing a disservice. You know, nobody remembers on a $600,000 house whether they paid, you know, 4,000 less or 10,000 more. You know, what they remember is that they're in that house with their family and that it works for them. That's the reality. And, you know, nobody remembers whether their interest rate was an eighth lower or an eighth higher. What they remember is if they had a experience that was stress-free and, you know, not negative, you know, they don't want to have a negative experience about, you know, going through that process. And that's all about, you know, communication, honesty, integrity. And the same thing holds for us. You know, nobody really cares about, you know, $10,000. Not that it doesn't matter, but if you're losing stuff that's relative to you that works, then you need to have a good strategy to get it done.
I think a lot of it is mindset. If you realize you can create your own market, now is a really excellent time to work on getting listings. You still have people in the market who are not focused, you know, on listings. They're running, you know, they're running with buyers. Listings are going to give you a lot of stability. And if you have a team and you have buyers agents, if you have listings, you're going to have inventory for those buyers agents to sell. I mean, Ron is a big advocate of this, actually an expert in the listing menu, but he can tell you that that's, you know, that's where it's at.
It's true.
And now is an opportune time. In this kind of market, with when you hear a lot of negative things on television, if you're a true professional, you know that that doesn't mean anything. But a lot of people believe it, a lot of realtors out there. So a lot of realtors are stepping back, laying off, not paying attention, and certainly not prospecting. So now is the time to take advantage of that. Less competition, guys.
So you know, Colleen, it's interesting that you brought that up, but you know, the companies like the headliner, like a Redfin, that's having a lot of layoffs in what is still seemingly a fairly robust market. Their business model is at odds with what ours is. Ours is about relationships, and theirs is about, you know, generating a funnel of leads. And that's where it's different, right? It's all about the relationship and the connection. And that's why we have the advantage. And the reports of the demise of the real estate professional have been going on for decades, and it doesn't happen because it's about the relationship. You know, you're when you provide value, you're indispensable, you're irreplaceable. Okay. When you lose focus on providing value, then you become subject to the same forces that are forcing, you know, Redfin to have to cut resources and lay people off. Okay. For those of us who are in Westfield or Watchung, I want to remind everybody that there is a happy hour from 2 to 5, sponsored by Matt Sora, our long-standing lender in those markets. It's at the Stage House on Route 22 in Mountainside, not the same Stage House that was at last time. So I look forward to having a few cocktails with Matt in those offices this afternoon.
Gina too. Gina will be there as well.
Gina will be there as well. So just remember, it's at the one on Route 22, not the Stage House in Scotch Plains. Anybody have any questions?
I have a
So, Rob,
question, like a jerk question, but so you're telling me there's going to be less realtors in the market because they're scared. You're just going to tell me there's more buyers for inventory and there's still plenty of buyers out there. Is that what you're telling me?
So repeat the question.
So there's realtors that don't get it, that are afraid of the market, that are pulling out, that are going to get out of business. You have real estate companies that compete with us, like Redfin and all this, getting out. You have more inventory for buyers to choose from, and there's still an abundance of buyers.
So I think the significance of the Redfin move, Bruce, is that they're focused on generating more and more names, phone numbers, and leads, whereas we focus on relationships, right? And when we're really busy, some people in the real estate and maybe the lending industry neglect their relationships and just focus on transactions. And if we keep true to our core, we talk to our people, that's what's going to keep us sustainable and probably growing. Heather?
Going back to Redfin, there is no relationship. They assign an agent to just open the door for the clients, not engage in any discussion about the property, and that's it. So there is no relationship.
Sounds like a good thing to me.
So look, for those of us who have not been through a down market, which is probably a lot of us on this call, don't be intimidated. If you do the right things and you stay true to what keeps you busy and what adds more value, you will grow market share. Many of the top agents increase their income because the biggest challenge that we have is not opportunity, it's managing time, right? Colleen, you're shaking your head. The most successful people, it's not a matter of if there's, 5.8 or 7 million sales. It's a matter of how many transactions can they fit in their day, right? And if they can drive more value and be more concise, have that lady thing where people trust them, and that's called rapport. And if people trusted you, they would have more successful outcomes. And, Audrey is a perfect example. She managed expectations, I forget. Audrey, are you someplace where you can talk?
I am.
When her friend, what was it? Her friend told her you should list it for 625 or 650.
Yes.
What did you tell her?
I told her they weren't the one selling the house. I was, and I was the real estate professional, not them. And then I reminded her that we've been down this road before, and I don't see why we needed to change anything. So I don't care what they have to say, and she shouldn't either. So,
But I don't know. But I don't know if you can hear the conviction and confidence in Audrey's voice. But I think that communication strategy was just so impactful, and your confidence level was like 110%, Audrey, because you knew it was right. And I don't think you wavered when, the homeowner, made a suggestion that wasn't the best strategy. And if you're going, maybe we should, I'm desperate for a listing, you will compromise your strategy. But when you are, like Audrey, and you know what's right, I only hope that you have this seller, Audrey, tell everybody in the planet that they know what a great job you did to get her $90,000, $91,000 more than asking price, and you got the house sold after it expired in this market. That's incredible.
Yep. She owes me.
Audrey,
She has to tell everybody.
Audrey, can I make a suggestion? I think it would be a great idea if you did a video interview with your seller.
Wow, that's
So
a great idea.
they could explain what you did for them and then post it on Facebook, LinkedIn, all your social media. I think it would be great.
Thank you.
Yep. So if there's no other questions, I want to wish everybody a happy weekend and encourage you to, own your time, be intentional and create habits that empower you to live a better life and not live to work, but work to live. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
You too, Rob. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Rob.